Hi guys, this is your girl Wakeji Kamore and welcome to Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. We are currently going through the book of 2 Samuel and we're doing this chapter by chapter, and today I'll be reading from the second chapter, which is chapter 2, and I'll be reading from the NLT version, which is the New Living Translation version. Please listen to the end because I'll be sharing my key lessons at the end of this recording, so kindly listen until I'm done reading the chapter. Also remember to subscribe, to share this with someone else because it is really good stuff. And then also hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any chapters. So I hope you're ready. Let's do this. All right, chapter 2. It says, after this, and this being the fact that, David has already received news that Saul is dead. There's this command who came and said he's the one who killed him, so he's killed him as well. And he's mourned Saul, he's mourned Jonathan as well. So this is what it says after this, after all this has happened. David asked the Lord, should I move back to one of the towns of Judah? I like the fact that David is in good terms with God. Like, he always consults God, which is really cool. And I also like the fact that God always answers him. So, yes, the Lord replied. So he asked, should I move back to one of the towns of Judah? And yes, the Lord replied. Then David asked, which town should I go to? To Hebron. The Lord answered. So David and his 2 wives and his men and all their families moved to Judah. And they settled in the villages near Hebron. Then the men of Judah came to David and they anointed him king over the people of Judah. Please take note. King over the people of Judah. When David heard that the men of Jabesh Gilead had buried Saul, he sent them this message. May the Lord bless you for being so loyal to your master Saul and giving him a decent burial. May the Lord be loyal to you in return and reward you with his unfailing love. And I too will reward you for what you have done. Now that Saul is dead, I ask you to be my strong and loyal subjects, like the people of Judah, who have anointed me as their new king. But Abner, son of Ner, so there's this new guy that we're now being introduced to, his name is Abner, and this guy was the commander of Saul's army. So, but Abner, son of Ner, the commander of Saul's army, had already gone to Mahanaim with Saul's son Ish-bosheth. So now, guys, remember that Saul had 3 sons that had died with him. There's another guy who didn't die. There's another son that didn't die, and his name is Ish-bosheth. But because his name is so difficult to mention, can I just call him Ishbo? Because man, mimi jina yake ni mrefu, and it's hard. Like, for me, it's saying Ish-bosheth. It's just too much for my Kikuyu tongue. So Abner, the commander of Saul's army, went to Ish-bosheth and he made him king. He says, then he proclaimed Ishbo king over Gilead, Jezreel, Ephraim, Benjamin, and the land of the Ashurites, and all the rest of Israel. So guys, remember that David is a king of Judah. Huyu Ishbo ameshakuwa declared king of all the other tribes. Because remember, Israel is made up of 12 tribes. And now, of course, there are other two nations that have come in. They have started looking like now they are Israelites as well. So now, Ishbo is the king of everywhere else apart from Judah. So Ishbo, Saul's son, was 40 years when he became king, and he ruled from Mahanaim for 2 years. Meanwhile, the people of Judah remained loyal to David, and David made Hebron his capital and ruled as king of Judah for 7.5 years. One day, Abner led Ishbo's troop from Mahanaim to Gibeon. About the same time, Joab, son of Zuriah, led David's troop out and met them at the pool of Gibeon. The 2 groups sat down there, facing each other from the opposite sides of the pool. Now remember, these are 2 troops. There's this troop that has come from Ishbo, who is the king of all other tribes apart from Judah, and then there's this troop led by Joab that has come from Judah, where David is king. All right, are we together up to that point? I hope so. So these two troops find themselves seated at the opposite side of each other. Anyway, so let's read and continue to see what it is that will happen. Then Abner suggested to Joab. Remember that Abner is the one who's leading the troops from Ish-bosheth's side, and then Joab is the one leading the troop from David's side. So he suggested, let's have a few of our warriors fight hand to hand here in front of us. All right, Joab agreed. So 12 men were chosen to fight from each side. 12 men of Benjamin representing the Ish-bosheth son of Saul, and 12 men representing David. Each one grabbed the opponent by the hair and thrust his sword into the other sides, and so that all of those men died. So this place at Gibeon had been ever since known as the field of swords. A fierce battle followed that day, and Abner and the men of Israel were defeated by the forces of David. So Joab, Abishai, and Asahel, the three sons of Zeruiah, were among David's forces that day. Asahel could run like a gazelle, and he began chasing Abner. He pursued him relentless, not stopping for anything. When Abner looked back and saw him coming, he called out, "Is that you, Asahel?" "Yes, it is," he replied. "Go fight someone else," Abner warned. "Take one of the younger men and strip him of his weapons." But Asahel kept right on chasing Abner. Again, Abner shouted to him, "Get away from here. I don't want to kill you. How could I ever face your brother Joab again?" But Asa refused to turn back. So Abner thrust the butt end of his spear through Asahel's stomach, and the spear came out from his back. He stumbled to the ground and died there. And everyone who came by that spot stopped and stood still when they saw Asahel lying there. So, just to catch you up, Abner, the leader of the troop from Ish-bosheth's side, has killed a guy called Asahel. And Asahel is a brother of Joab, and he's also the brother of Abishai. And they're all three guys, they're the sons of Zeruiah. Gosh, these ninis are hard. Anyway, so when Joab and Abishai found out what happened, they set out after Abner. The sun was just going down when they arrived the hill of Ammah near Giah, along the road to the wilderness of Gibeon. Abner's troop from the tribe of Benjamin regrouped there at the top of the hill and took a stand. Abner shouted down to Moab, "Must we always be killing each other? Don't you realize that bitterness is the only result? When will you call off your men from chasing the Israelite brothers?" Wow, this guy. First, Abner is the one who decided to say, who suggested to Joab, let's get 12 people to fight each other. Like 12 people from your side, 12 people from our side. But now, apparently, now that he has killed someone and the brothers are chasing him, he's like, "Must we always fight each other?" I'm like, first, why did you even decide that people should fight in the beginning? But now that you see you're almost losing, now your sense has suddenly come back. Anyway, where was I, guys? Oh, he says, "Must we always be killing each other? Don't you realize that bitterness is the only resort? When will you call off your men from chasing the Israelite brothers?" Then Joab said, "God only knows what have happened if you hadn't spoken, for we would have chased you all night if necessary." So Joab blew the ram's horn, and his men stopped chasing the troops of Israel. All that night, Abner and his men retreated through the Jordan Valley, and they crossed the Jordan River, traveling all through the morning, and didn't stop until they arrived at Mahanaim. Meanwhile, Joab and his men also returned home. When Joab counted his casualties, he discovered only 19 men were missing in addition to Asahel, but 360 of Abner's men had been killed, all from the tribe of Benjamin. Joab and his men took Asahel's body to Bethlehem and buried him there in his father's tomb, and they traveled all night to reach Hebron at daybreak. All right. It's actually very interesting, this chapter. So Saul is dead, and David has been anointed king. Had been anointed king before the death of Samuel. So he does become king, but one of Saul's son named Ish-bosheth survived, and so is the leader of Saul's army named Abner. And Abner proclaimed Ish-bosheth king. So now we have two kings, David, which is the king, who's the king of Judah, and then Ish-bosheth, who's the king of the rest of Israel. And this starts a division in itself in the tribes and the cities of Israel. Then one day, the troops of David and the troops of Ish-bosheth in their normal routes find themselves opposite each other, and Abner, who was the leader of Ish-bosheth's army, suggested that a few of the warriors from each side fight against each other. So they chose 12 from each side, and each one grabbed his opponent by the hair and thrust his sword to the side, and all of them died, which led to a fierce battle. I mean, what do you expect to happen after that? Fierce battle that following day, where Abner and Ish-bosheth's army were defeated by the forces of David. So among David's forces, there's this guy called Zeruiah, and he has sons that are called Joab, Abishai, and Asahel. Asahel was a really fast runner. He went after Abner, and unfortunately Abner killed him. And now the two brothers, Joab and Abishai, are going after Abner to avenge the death of their brothers. And Abner speaks some sense into them and persuades them to stop fighting against their Israelite brothers. And luckily the two brothers hear him and they return home. The main issue in all this fighting is that David was anointed king as a teenager by Samuel, and years later by the men of Judah. David was the Lord's clear choice to replace Saul and to lead the people. But Abner was not having it. Abner was so loyal to Saul. He did not recognize God's leading and chose Ish-bosheth as Israel king, leading to a discord and leading to a civil war that also led to death. You see, the thing is, God's purposes will always supersede any action or choice of men. It doesn't matter if those around you don't think you are as worthy of the calling. And the only thing that matters is that God has purposed it. The only thing that matters is that God had purposed for David to be king. And we will see what unfolds in the next few chapters, because it's going to be interesting to just see God's purpose not being thwarted because of people's choice, because of people's opinion, because God's purpose always supersedes any action or choice of men. It doesn't matter if the people around you, if your family, at work, colleagues, the fellow students around you don't think you are worthy of the calling. The only thing that matters is that God has purposed it. This is your girl Wakeji Kamore, and this has been Reflections by Wakeji Kamore. See you tomorrow.